Welcome to your Health Facts. We're going to do a deep dive today into something I think a lot of people are curious about, and that is the connection between zinc and hair growth. I think a lot of us have heard, the zinc is important for our overall health, but what's the real story when it comes to our hair?
Well, you hear a lot about it, and it turns out that it's pretty complex. Zinc is really critical in how your hair follicles actually form. You can think about those follicles as like these tiny little factories that are churning out the hair that you see, and you style. And zinc is what makes sure that the foundation of that factory is strong. If you don't have enough zinc, your body is really going to struggle to create a strong base for that healthy hair growth. So you might start to notice that your hair feels thinner, it's breaking more easily, or maybe it's just not as bouncy and flexible as it usually is. And that's because zinc is also super involved in producing the proteins collagen and keratin. And those are the two big ones that are giving your hair its strength and its structure.
Yeah, it's not just about, having hair. It's about having healthy hair, having vibrant hair that looks good and feels good too. But it seems like the story gets even more interesting when we start to think about the different phases of hair growth. Because your hair isn't always growing at the same rate. It cycles through different periods of growth, rest, shedding.
Right. And this is where a really specific enzyme comes in, and it's called alkaline phosphatase, or ALP. And you can think about ALP as like the conductor of an orchestra. It's making sure that each phase of that hair growth cycle is perfectly timed. It's all in sync, and zinc is 100% needed for ALP to be able to do that job. So if you are low on zinc, those cycles are going to get all messed up. And that can lead to hair loss, or it can lead to hair that just doesn't grow as long or as strong as it could.
Wow. And so what I think is fascinating here is that ALP, that same enzyme, it's also helping deliver energy to those hair follicles. So it's like making sure that they have the fuel they need to keep producing healthy hair. So it's like zinc is almost like the foreman of the whole factory. It's making sure that the factory has power. It's making sure the workers are showing up at the right time. Everyone has what they need. But I'm curious, is there such a thing as too much of a good thing when it comes to zinc?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You need both zinc and copper, but it really is about balance. You can almost think of it like a seesaw. If one side goes up, the other side's got to go down. And so if you're taking in too much zinc, it can actually lead to you being deficient in copper. And copper is also just as important when it comes to the health of your hair. It's really important in hair pigmentation. So that means that it's giving your hair its color. And it also helps with the structural integrity of each strand of hair. And then in addition to all of that, it also supports the health of those hair follicles, those little factories we've been talking about. So zinc is critical, but if you have too much of it, it's going to throw off the balance, and it's actually going to negatively affect your hair.
So it seems like it's all about finding that sweet spot. How much is too much when it comes to zinc?
Well, the upper limit for adults is about 40 milligrams per day. And if you start going over that, that's when you might get some side effects. Things like nausea and vomiting, stomach cramps, headaches. However, there are certain situations where you might need more zinc. So if you have an autoimmune disease or an infection, or if you have gut inflammation, you might need more. And so it's always important to talk to your doctor. They'll be able to figure out the right dose for you.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really important to get personalized advice when it comes to something like that. So you're getting the right amount for you. You're not getting too much, but you're also making sure that you're getting enough.
It's interesting because it's not just about getting enough zinc in your diet. It's also about how well your body can actually absorb it and use it.
That makes sense.
Mm.
I mean, we can be eating all the zinc-rich foods we can find,
Yeah.
but if our bodies aren't actually absorbing it, then it's not really doing us much good.
Exactly. And there are actually quite a few things that can get in the way of zinc absorption. It's almost like, trying to put a puzzle together. All the pieces need to fit in order for your body to really efficiently take in and use that zinc from your food.
Okay, so what are some of those missing pieces that people might be dealing with?
Well, one of the big ones is gut inflammation. So if your gut's not happy and healthy, that can really mess with your ability to absorb nutrients, and zinc is one of those nutrients. Also, stress is another big one. When you're stressed all the time, your body's going to prioritize,
Yeah.
you know, keeping you alive. And so things like nutrient absorption can kind of take a back seat.
It really seems like, modern life, it's so fast-paced and demanding. It's almost like we're setting ourselves up for these nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to be aware of. And it's not just lifestyle factors either. Your diet plays a big role. Like if you eat a lot of carbs, that can interfere with zinc absorption. And then there's this compound called phytic acid. It's found in grains. And what it does is it basically binds to zinc. and that stops your body from absorbing it as well.
Wow. So even if we're eating foods that have zinc in them, there are other things in our diet that can affect, how much of that zinc we're actually getting.
That's exactly right. And then you've got hormones to think about too. If you have too much estrogen, which can happen with things like birth control pills or hormone replacement therapy, that can throw off your zinc levels too.
This is getting really complicated. It seems like there are so many things that can make it hard to absorb zinc properly.
There are, but the good news is that you can usually do something about most of these things. So if you start taking care of your gut, and if you try to manage your stress levels, and if you make some good choices about what you're eating, you can really make a difference in how well your body absorbs and uses zinc.
So it's all about, looking at the whole picture and, seeing if there's anything else going on that might be making it hard to absorb zinc.
Exactly. And remember how we talked about that balance between zinc and copper? Well, to make sure that you're getting the right amounts of each one and to try to avoid any side effects, you want to aim for a ratio of about 10 to 1. So 10 parts zinc to 1 part copper.
Okay, 10 to 1, that's helpful. But how can people make sure that they're getting enough copper, especially if they're also, watching their zinc intake?
Well, some good sources of copper are things like liver, shellfish, nuts and seeds, and dark chocolate. You can also ask your doctor about whether a copper supplement would be right for you.
So it's really all about tuning into your body and seeing, are there any signs that things are out of balance?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're noticing that your hair is falling out, or it's thinning,
Yeah.
or the texture's changed, it might be a good idea to think about whether you could be low in zinc, or whether your zinc and copper balance is off.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm really starting to understand that zinc is so much more than just something you see on a vitamin label. It's really important for growing healthy hair and for our overall health, too.
And it's really important to remember that your body is pretty smart. It's going to prioritize where it uses zinc based on what it needs to survive. So if you're not getting enough zinc, your hair might be one of the first places where you start to see problems.
That makes sense.
Mm.
I mean, our bodies are going to make sure that our organs and systems are functioning properly,
Right.
the things we need for survival, before it starts worrying about things like hair growth.
Exactly. Things like immunity and reproduction and wound healing, those are things that are going to come first. So if you don't have enough zinc, it's almost like your hair is getting shortchanged.
So that's why it's so important to be proactive about getting enough zinc, making sure we're eating the right foods, addressing any issues that might be preventing us from absorbing it properly, and maybe even talking to our doctor about supplements, just to make sure that we're giving our bodies what they need to function at their best.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment where our hair follicles can thrive. But it's also about, supporting our overall health and well-being.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of zinc and hair health. I think a lot of people don't realize just how important this mineral really is.
Yeah, it's amazing how these tiny little things can have such a big impact on our bodies.
It really is. And the more we understand about how our bodies work, the better choices we can make for our health.
I completely agree with you.
Well, to all of our listeners out there, if you want to learn more about your health facts, we encourage you to subscribe to yourhealthfacts.com. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.